very much so. Like, you think you have this deep, dark secret that no one can know, because if they know, they would never, ever love you. And you kind of feel like I felt, and I've heard this too with other women, that like you're marked, like you are now damaged goods, that God is going to tolerate you at best. Welcome to Coffee with Carey, where we're fighting faith and hope in unexpected journeys. We're switching things up a bit today. I am actually giving the mic over to Krista Williams, my colleague, where I will share my testimony of how I found faith and healing through my abortion experience. Welcome, Crystal.
Hi, Carey. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Me too. So you are the visionary of starting the podcast, and you came to me the end of last year, and you had this idea. Before we switch gears and I get into my abortion recovery and story, I want to hear from you. I know we've talked a little bit, but I want to hear from you what, like, the background, like why a podcast, the God story behind it, perhaps. And then also, you're about 1.5 years in. And I remember during the interview process, you were like, hey, I'm super aligned with y'all's cause. And believe in what you guys do, but I personally don't have, something that, like, it doesn't hit home to me. Like, I don't have someone in my family.
Yeah.
Whereas other nonprofits that you have worked for or even created, and I'd love for you to share a little bit about the one with for your son. You had it was something that was special, right? And so I want to hear, about the podcast. I want to hear, now that you have got your feet wet a little bit and have been exposed to our testimonies and the work that we do, what insights have you gained? Because I'm sure you had some preconceived notions from media and from others being a pro-life ministry.
Yes. So Carey gave me too much time after the gala off, and I had too much time to think. So I was sitting there, and I had been talking with other women in marketing that are in our community, and she just kept repeating how big podcasts were getting. And I was like, I wish there was something that, like, talked about the realness behind what we do or what you guys do at the center. And I felt very uneducated coming in. While I was pro-life, I had never really been around the pro-life ministry or even movement. And so one of the first things we did coming into it was we filmed testimonies of post-abortive women. And there was one in particular that shook me to my core. She was extremely vulnerable, and you could tell 20 years later how painful it was for her, how real it still was for her. And even if maybe I hadn't experienced it, I had so much empathy for what she was battling through after her abortion. And I had no clue that that was how it felt after an abortion. Yeah. So a lot of passion was stirred up in me that day. And there was one other instance where my son was born extremely premature. And I was talking with a friend at the baseball field about what I do. And I said I worked for a pregnancy center, and I do marketing. And I said, I don't really have like a post-abortive testimony or any kind of connection to it. And she looked at me and she said, you actually do more than anyone. She said, you've seen life at its like most sensitive time. My son was barely able to survive birth, and, had a long stint in the hospital. And she goes, you of all people know the fragility of life. And it really like rocked my heart, because while I had been involved in nonprofits, they've always been surrounded around children, and specifically children with special needs. So it was something that, I had such a passion for naturally because of my son. So yeah, so 1.5 years in, and you've got me on fire for life, and you've hooked, line, and sinkered me in. So, yeah. But I am so thankful to be here.
And we're so thankful for you. So, okay, so going into it, what kind of preconceived notions did you have? Yeah. What are some things that you heard about for pro-lifers, pregnancy centers, and what is your perception now?
So it was such a God thing that I even heard about Adria. We have a mutual friend, and it was the stage of life that I was in where I felt like my baby was in kindergarten. It's kind of twiddling my thumbs a little bit. And you know me now, I don't really like to sit still very long. So she called me and she explained what the job was, and we talked, and I really sat on it and thought about it and prayed about it and asked people around me that I trusted. And there was some hesitancy because in the environment I grew up in, it was kind of taboo.
Yeah.
While, yes, of course, we're pro-life, we don't really speak about it. And we don't really boldly speak about it. And so that was like hard for me to change my mind frame on the tabooness of the subject.
Sure.
It's almost like politics and money. You don't talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, we believe what we believe, but we don't have to say it. So yeah, there was some hesitancy going in, and I was always very honest with you about like I'm 100% pro-life. I'm just getting my feet wet. I want to be educated on the way that I'm saying things. I don't want to sound uneducated or insensitive.
Sure.
But I think a year and a half in, and I've gotten a lot more familiar with the verbiage that's correct to use and vocabulary, and just educated on it in general. Like, what is abortion? What does it look like? I didn't know about chemical abortions. I didn't know about pills and all that. So like just the whole world. I'm just more educated now on the subject.
I agree. It's like a total God thing. Because I remember Kelly, I was like, I'm working with this affiliation and they're telling me I need a program now for development. I don't even know what development is. And they were like, who does your development? I'm like, I do. And they're like, Carey. They're like, we need to find you someone in development. Yeah. And so I remember being on the phone with Kelly and she's like, oh my gosh, I have the perfect person. And it has been incredible. It's been hard. It's been, like you said, a learning curve.
Yeah.
And I don't think you're alone with that, because I heard not too long ago an interview, and it was a very well-known celebrity that's Christian. And she said, I was hesitant on getting on this. It was a podcast. I was like, actually, it was a conference. And she said, I was hesitant. I've never shrunk back or been scared to share the gospel and to share God and Christ and my faith. But the principles and the values from that worldview, I have been, right? And so, you coming in, marketing and networking and saying words that almost feel like 4-letter words. Like pro-life is like a 4-letter word nowadays, right? Even for people that are maybe on the fence. And I remember you telling me like, I don't know, do you? And I'm like, I mean, I'm post-abortive, and I think I finally have gotten to a place where I feel more confident. Because I feel like God's like, really? Like if this, this is what it is, and this is truth.
And I'm glad that we had sensitivity to the
Sure.
subject, because you never want to
Absolutely.
go just berating through a sensitive subject.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there is a boldness that we need to possess as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
To be fair, I don't know what development is either, because I do a bunch of different jobs.
I don't think we know a lot of things that we do, right?
No, but yeah, I'm really thankful for it. I'm thankful to be here, and I'm so honestly, I got to go to the gala, one of your first galas, and I got to hear your testimony before I really knew you. And I remember just sitting there and being like, wow, that was so vulnerable and so honest, and how much it moved me. So I thought, who better? I got you sold on the podcast idea first, and then I was like, you're the first guest.
Yes, and what's wild is I like immediately had peace, and when people would talk to me about it, I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing, and I feel like this is a completely different animal, but there was such a peace about it. And I feel like, when God has led us to something or led me to something, it's always, I follow his peace.
Yeah.
I will say that I can go on a complete discussion about just nowadays people having branding and having platforms and the, almost the fear of that.
Yeah.
I think the church has been just washed over with selfish ambition and vain conceit. And I think that there is something beautiful in being in the background and receiving, and not everyone having to share. I think there's beauty, and we don't always have to share our opinions. Not everyone needs to know how everyone feels, right? Maybe we wouldn't have so much polarity. But then you know when God says do something. And so I love that you were obedient to him. And there was such a peace about this. And just thinking about, you talk about the gala, the first gala. I was 6 weeks in, had no idea what I was doing, and had only talked and told maybe 5 people about my abortion. Wow. In less than a year, I was sitting in front of 300 people.
There's a lot of people there.
Telling my story. And there was not 1 ounce once I got up there of, it was like all to the glory of God, because I know that when I decided to step out and start getting help with my abortion, it was another woman sharing her story.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure there's similarities with other unexpected journeys.
Yeah.
But there's a shame to abortion. There's such a deep shame. And when I heard another woman sharing her story in on the side of just freedom, like she wasn't minimizing her sin, she was calling it what it was, but she was free.
Yeah.
And that helped me step out to even ever say yes to working at a pregnancy resource center, let alone standing on that stage talking to that many people.
So Carey is a mom, a wife, my boss. She cringes every time I say that, but I love to watch her do it. She is an incredible mom. We really got close over the gala planning process, and we really got to see each other in different lights than I think we did in the formality of our office.
Yes.
So it was really special. Tell me about your family, your beautiful, beautiful family. Tell me about Sean, how long y'all been together. Kind of set the scene.
Yeah. So I am married. Been married since 2017. And we have been together for 11 years. We are a blended family. We were both married before, and God's redeemed both of our stories. And we have yours, mine, and ours. So he had 3, I had 1, and we have had 2 together. And so we have, the oldest are 15, fraternal twins, 13-year-old son, 12-year-old daughter, 6-year-old daughter, and 4-year-old daughter. And the oldest, the twins, are girls too. So we have all girls, 1 boy, my poor husband, and a lot of emotions and a very interesting dynamic. We're blended and it's different. It's hard. I don't know how people do it and navigate it without the Lord. I desire for more ministries to come forth and to help with wisdom and counsel for it. And Sean and I both have struggled, but then tried to embrace when we have sought counsel, because I think it's similar to I think of like someone that has foster children in their home. And it has changed the dynamic of their house, right? And their marriage. And so you go seek counsel from people that have a nuclear family. They've never been divorced. They're not step parents. They don't have step children. They don't have half siblings. They don't have a ton of kids, right?
Yeah.
And so how do you get wisdom from people, but then not reject it because it doesn't look the same? So we've both tried to say, okay, that's probably not going to work in our family, or even judgments.
Yeah.
There's been judgments of expectations, but it just looks different.
Yeah.
And so we have tried to glean, but it is, I think there's a need. I know there's a need in the church
for a ministry,
for many ministries, multiple ministries, and ways to keep blended families together. Unfortunately, the divorce rate's so high, and it's even higher in second marriages. And I would not wish a divorce on my worst enemy. It is absolutely horrible. You don't have children and think that I'm going to only see them for half of their life. Like, that's not natural. And so there's so many different struggles that come with that, like all families.
Yeah.
But it's unique. And but I will say it's beautiful. And my blended family and my husband is a part of my redemptive story. Even if it's messy and hard, he's my list. And my kids are incredible.
Awesome. I love that. What's your favorite thing about your husband?
Oh my gosh. There's so many things. He's really hot.
That's a plus.
He is very artistic. He's like extremely intelligent. He can play any instrument. He can draw really well. I mean, he's just an artist. He's a creative.
Yeah.
He is so incredibly funny. And he makes me feel calm.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, he has such a steady, strong moral compass. He is like a rock. He's very grounded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your least favorite? Just kidding. Don't answer that. Don't answer that. Okay. Now we're going to talk about your testimony. So catch me up to speed. Right before your abortion story, what is the dynamic between you and your first husband? You had a child. Kind of explain that situation to me.
Yeah. So right leading up to my abortion, I was going through a divorce. I had a young daughter, and just everything that could have like been taken away from me essentially was. So we lost our house to mold. I was living in my parents' spare bedroom upstairs with my daughter in a crib. I did have an education. I had a master's and I was licensed, but I was a stay-at-home mom, and so I didn't have a job. I essentially went from, trying to have the perfect family and trying so hard, like, God, you are going to I believed, like, God, you're going to make my adulthood so much better than my childhood. And my whole goal and vision in life was never to get a divorce. Like, I was going to break that. Like, I was never going to get a divorce. We were engaged for, a year and a half, and everything was planned, and it was the most beautiful, magical wedding. And, everything that from the, all of it. And then we, planned our daughter. And so we did everything, quote unquote, the right way. Yeah. But it was, I was just in a broken place. And honestly, I was a broken person then, and still am, but by the grace of God, from glory to glory, I'm being sanctified, but loved Jesus. I had an epic encounter. Give me a little bit of backstory. I had an epic encounter with the Lord in my mid 20s, and was like on fire for God. And people were like, "Oh, that's so cute," you're a baby Christian. And it was like, it didn't go away. Mm-hmm. And I went from the bar and like drinking and college to like, I just completely delivered from alcohol, like didn't want it. Made people feel uncomfortable. Like I was like, I'll just stay home and read my Bible. I was like, I will go to church, and just absolutely fell in love with Jesus. So it was not something that I wanted, and I had found myself in the middle of a bad divorce. Every divorce is bad. And we had gone to dinner I had gone to dinner with our friend group for one of our friends' birthdays. So, at the time, of course, like any married couple, you have married couple, friends. And so I had started drinking just to like honestly cut the edge, because the amount of anxiety I had, I couldn't like function.
So you're in the middle of your divorce, or it's finalized?
So I'm in the middle of my divorce.
Okay. I think something you said was so relatable and so real about like, I did it all right. Right. Yeah. And so you thought, well, of course God was going to, bless you because you did it all right. And that's so relatable, especially before you go through an unexpected journey. Yeah. I feel like I do that all the time. I'm like, well, I got married first and I had babies then, and then we did this and we did that, and then things still happen. And you're still vulnerable to things like that to happen. So you're in the middle of your divorce, you're going out to eat dinner, you've had a drink to relax. And
Yes. And I continued to drink. And then, then afterwards, some of us went for more drinks. And it was something that, 4 weeks later, I started feeling symptoms of being pregnant. I knew how it was to feel pregnant because I'd had my daughter. And I was just like, you have got to be kidding, it was weird because, there's times where I have been such a sinner, and I am a sinner, but I have, we reap what we sow, and sometimes we don't. And it was like, what is happening? Like literally like, okay, I'm going through divorce I didn't want. There's this like the situation that unfolded that I didn't know was happening, which was just crushing. And now I don't have my house. Now I don't have it was like, what else? And then also we do that comparing thing. Like, I knew people in ministry that were youth pastors that snuck off and were being, doing things before their marriage. They didn't get caught. Right. So I was like, you have got to be kidding me. Like I the one time, I don't even remember it. So my dad passed away last summer. And he was like, he swore it was non-consensual, but I know how I was back when I was a heavy drinker in college before I got saved. And I know that I would just forget stuff, so my story, everyone has their own story, and please hear me. I'm not saying that this is anyone else's story, but for me, for me, this is my story, I guess is what I'll say, is this is my story as far as that. but I didn't know. And the father of the baby like was like, oh my gosh, you really don't remember. I was like, I really don't. So I went to I think at this point, if I can remember, I think I just got into an apartment. My parents were financially supporting me. I want to say I was not yet employed. I was maybe employed shortly after. I don't remember exactly.
Okay. Do you remember taking the pregnancy test?
Oh my gosh, yes. I remember driving to a drugstore and I was like completely hollow. And I took the pregnancy test and it was as if the world had stopped, but no one else had gotten the memo. Like I was looking around and for a week I told no one. And I went to dinner and had sushi with a friend and she's like laughing and chatting with me. And I'm like, I am so preoccupied and thinking, why are people smiling and laughing and kids are playing on their tablet next to us at this table? And why is the world continuing to spin around?
Because you feel like yours is crumbling.
Completely, the world had stopped.
Yeah.
And
Why didn't you share? Were you scared? Were you processing?
I was processing and I couldn't figure out an answer. I didn't know the answer. It was the first time in my life, like I could not figure this out. I couldn't.
Yeah.
It was horrible. It was a horrible feeling. And that's sad to say, but that's my story.
Yeah.
Life is not horrible, but that's how I felt at the time. And I was scared and I didn't know what to do. So I kept it for a week. At the time, the state we live in, so the law was that you had to get an ultrasound the day before. So I found, I was like, I just can't do this. Like I am going court case after court, time. I'm getting on the witness stand. And my friends at the time were like laughing. They're like, what are they going to say about you? You read your Bible too much? Like literally they're like, this is hilarious. Like nobody has any, like you sit home and you read your Bible, right?
With your divorce, you were going through court.
Yes.
Okay.
And they're like, what is like, right? And so here I am, shame, right? What are people going to think? Because now I'm going to be pregnant on a witness stand with somebody's kid that I don't even know.
You were spiritually feeling like you were being judged, and also like in your real life world, with your divorce, you felt like you were going to be judged and sentenced.
100%. And that's super selfish, but that's where I was at. I was just like, real. I still was trying, my mind was reeling on like, what is happening? Is this real? And so I about a week later, I Googled like abortion clinics and I walked someone through salvation in the Planned Parenthood parking lot. And here I am Googling abortion clinics. And I was even Googling like Christians that have abortions, and the stories that people were saying were like just awful. Your parents are super pro-life and they go make you have an abortion, then you go run out there and picket, life is so messy, and humans, we're just so broken and so sinful. And here I am thinking like, why me, but why not me, I guess,
Yeah.
Anyway, so I went to the appointment and had the ultrasound because it's by law you had to. The procedure was going to be the next morning, and it was on the other side of town. I made sure it was as far away as possible. So I drove out there, and when I went there, I mean, the waiting room, it was like a factory. I mean, there were just women everywhere. Some of them had their kids in the waiting room. There was, TV going, right? We're just waiting for an appointment. And the ultrasound, I wouldn't look at it, but it was like super far away and I feel like not even visible. I do remember when I walked to the checkout, like for them to check me out, the nurse, she had my chart open and she had put the ultrasound, like tagged it inside of the chart. And I was like kind of going like this, like I do not. And she looked at me like, almost like she was rolling her eyes at me. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
There was no space of like, how are you feeling? Or do you want to do this, or adoption options. There was no counsel at all. And so I went home and I called a very, close friend, and was like, I have to tell somebody because I can't do this.
So you had still not told anyone at this point?
Not a soul.
Wow.
Not a soul. And that's not uncommon. I mean, I have people that we've counseled at Adria for post-abortion in their 70s that had never told a soul.
I bet you that's just an isolating feeling, though.
Very much so. Very much so. Like, you think you have this deep, dark secret that no one can know, because if they know, they would never, ever love you. And you kind of feel like I felt, and I've heard this too with other women, that like you're marked. Like you are now damaged goods, that God is going to tolerate you at best. And that friendships and relationships and authentic, genuine ones are just never going to be in your, a part of your life, because the minute people find out that you've had an abortion, they're not going to love you at all. So yeah, I was like, I'm not telling a soul.
So you invite this friend over?
I did. I invited a friend over, and they had been going through that season with me, and they were angry for me. They were like, I cannot believe this is happening to you. Super like kind about that. And we're like, hey, there were things that were said. And the gist of it was, hey, if we're not, you're going to keep the baby, then, you need support. So you need to go to your family and you need to tell them. So that's what I did.
So ultimately you end up back at Planned Parenthood.
So it wasn't Planned Parenthood. It was an actual abortionist office.
Okay.
It was in a commercial building, several stories, like same building you would go to a counselor or a CPA.
Okay.
It literally, they probably had dentists in there. And so the procedure was on a Saturday morning. This was Friday night. And when I shared, what I will say is that there are players in my abortion, but I ultimately am responsible for what I did. And I know that the shrapnel that it has left, and not just myself, but those involved, the lack of education, the desire for knowing more. I think even Christians that don't understand fetal development, I think there was a fear for me, like from all the other stuff. People were like living vicariously through me. I'm sure, when you went through your stuff with your family, you had friends and family that were with you and Jared's at the hospital with your son, and they weren't going through it, but they were experiencing it secondhand and watching you hurt. And so there were people that loved me that didn't know
what they were speaking
and what to say.
Yeah, that's so hard. I always say, I feel like people have empathy, but they don't have understanding. Like, they feel for me, but they don't really fully understand what I'm about to go through. Yeah, it's hard.
Yep.
So you go and have the procedure. What does that look like? For someone who's never heard of a testimony about an abortion, what is the most raw, vulnerable experience you can share?
It was the worst thing I've ever done. It was cold. It was cold lit, like just and I've heard this. Every single person I've counseled says the same thing. It was cold. It was like we're just a procedure, no big deal. It was really hard. So I think about people that say, that it's okay, but it's not. It's not. And it hurts women. It hurts women so much. It takes an innocent life that didn't deserve it, no matter what. And it hurts women
And so when someone has been indoctrinated to think that you're pro-woman when you are pro-abortion, that is the biggest lie. Because the pain that you feel, I will never, ever forget it. I know God has saved me and healed me and set me free, and I'm genuinely healed. I'm genuinely at a place of healing. But the experience itself, the procedure itself, I got off of that table and I died too. I was hollow. My life completely changed, and I remember coming back, and so ridiculous. I remember doing a selfie. Oh my gosh, a selfie on Facebook or something, and I was like alter ego almost, like, okay, I'm done. I'm somebody new, and like I am a million miles away emotionally from everyone from now on. I am spiritually, emotionally, mentally, I am a shell. I am literally a hollow shell, and my life is over. And the only person I can blame is myself. But a part of the healing is you blame a lot of people, and that's okay. That's healing. I mean, if you've ever done any kind of good counseling and processing grief, there's all sorts of parts to grief and processing, and one of those is exploring other people a part of the story. But the part of healing is true repentance. And repentance is not genuine unless you have take full responsibility of something. So the healing process was not until many years later, because but the immediate response was numbing, was secrecy, and denial, complete denial. Like, I'm just going to move on.
All protective mechanisms were a go. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're just going to keep moving, and don't tell anybody.
I'm so sorry. No. I can't even imagine. I really can't. I am so thankful that your story didn't stop there, Carey. I'm so thankful that you found healing. Can you explain the healing process for me? I don't know this part of your story, actually. How many years, how did it look? Actually, let's process, how did it look? So before you went to counsel and they were supportive of your decision to get an abortion, more or less, and did all those support systems support you afterwards? What does that look like after? Or did you feel like there was a bait and switch of like, hey, you were so supportive before and now I feel very judged?
It's a really good question. So I was very supportive with some of the people that were involved with my story. And then there were other people. I lost my church. I lost, which was my community. I mean, when I gave my life to Christ, I mean, I'm telling you, like, you would never see me in a bar. You would see me in church, and I lost all of them.
Yeah.
And it was really hard. So it was confusing. It was quite confusing to be told different things that were incongruent, and at the end of the day, I'm a grown woman, and I made my decision, and I have to walk through that. But I think that there needs to be a space of acknowledging, that there were hurts. There were a lot of hurts, and I was, having to rebuild, community and support.
I've heard a lot of women say in their post-abortive testimonies how, like, the amount of shame that they felt prevented them from ever, like, I've never heard a woman say, you know what, I just felt great and it was just like, we're going to walk away from this. It's always been that story of like shame controlling them afterwards.
Yeah.
I hate so much that the church wasn't able to be there for you, because if there's ever a time a church should be there for you, it'd be in a moment like that where you're vulnerable. And Carey, you are such a strong person. So I can only imagine, I see this tender, almost like little girl whenever I think of that phase in your life, which is so, like, you are so strong and you're educated, you're so beautiful, you've got an amazing family, but I can only imagine how on the inside you felt like a little girl that just couldn't fend for herself in that moment, emotionally, spiritually, physically.
Yeah, it was, what was crazy is that, maybe not crazy, but everything kept being taken away. And then this abortion, terminating my pregnancy, was something that I chose, and I knew what I was doing. And it really messes with you. You know, I don't have the stereotypical post-abortion story of, you know, I wasn't saved and now I'm saved, and that's, you know, or then I was in college, or, you know, there's certain ones are like, well, that's okay. You know, mine's like, no, it's not okay.
Yeah.
You know, and so when I went through healing, it was like, I really struggled with the facilitators when I went through and I did several different things to seek recovery. But
How many years after your abortion were you going through?
so I was doing a lot of counseling through other things. And
Okay.
then I did some individual EMDR counseling, which helped tremendously. I highly recommend it.
And what is EMDR?
EMDR is a type of trauma therapy that helps with your central nervous system and kind of what's been trapped in there. And so symptomology is decreased significantly. So like things like going to the doctor's office or driving down 45 and seeing Planned Parenthood, that would be highly triggering. Or during election season, people would be posting graphic things on their Facebook, and I would just have to get off of it. Like if I saw any pro-life images, it was dysregulating. And so EMDR was very helpful for that. So I did that for a while, and I would say maybe a couple of years after, maybe about a year after, I started working on just the symptoms and the triggers. I should say triggers. But I would find myself like driving to someone's house and just start bawling in the car and have to like drive around in circles and just begging God, like, please forgive me. Like, please forgive me for what I did. And I did that a lot. And I know that the Bible says, and the Bible is truth, that we are forgiven, you know, if we ask for forgiveness, but I just kept taking it back. So I did some EMDR, and then I thought, my gosh, it's great. I'm great. You know, I have wept before the Lord. I have cried out to the Lord. And then I've also got counseling, you know, professional Christian counseling. I'm fine. I'm healed, but I still wouldn't tell anybody. And I think that is a indicator in a lot of times if you really have been healed on things. And I don't think that we need to be airing, you know, our holy of holies to everyone, but, you know, God wants to, as he prompts us, to be able to share our story, whether it be an abortion or sexual abuse survivor as a child, whatever it may be, as he prompts, and with discretion. But I wasn't there yet. And so I thought that I was healed. Do I think that I had received healing? Sure. But there were layers. God heals us in layers. I just think we can't handle much more of that. And so several years later, we were I was attending a church, and we were doing a volunteer day at a pregnancy center. I didn't even know what a pregnancy center was.
Wow.
And the advocate was there, and she was talking about and walking through and giving people a tour. And on the wall was a forgiven and set free memorial of the names of the unborn babies from the abortion recovery program. And she goes, I don't know why I'm saying this. Let me back up. So as we're walking by, I'm starting being super stoic, and women in this group, as we're touring it, are like breaking down, crying. And, you know, having to go to the side because a lot of people in our group were post-abortive. And here I am just like, just stay straight face, you know, don't tell anybody. And when she got to the very end, she said, I don't know why I'm telling this. I've never shared, but the 3 babies on that wall are my babies. But she said it in a place of true healing. She knew she wasn't dismissing her abortions. And I was like, I cannot believe she said that. And I think that started hearing someone else's story and hearing it in that context of like, this was something I did. I take ownership, but I'm healed from it.
Yeah.
Was the beginning of, you know, me volunteering there, and then taking the Forgiven and Set Free class because they wanted me to teach the class, and thinking, I don't need this. I'm good, but I'll do it. And my gosh, it was instrumental in where I'm at now, because after that,
I had a friend that told me, she said, it was like somebody took a key and unlocked you. She's like, even our friendship, she's like, you are different.
Yeah.
So you don't know with how much things like trauma or things like abortion,
Have a hold on you.
all of the things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so many things to heal. But EMDR therapy, Christian counseling, and the Forgiven and Set Free, which is a post-abortive Bible study,
Yeah.
is what really helped.
Yeah. And you still administer that Forgiven and Set Free at Adria as well.
Yes.
Which is awesome.
Yes, I do. That's what got me into pregnancy centers. Was I wanted women to be set free. I wanted women to find healing and to know that. And it's been a beautiful thing to be in the arena of God moving in these rooms, small settings, and women saying, we had someone that said, I haven't been wanting to go to heaven because I know my child will not want to see me. And speaking the word of God, and it's truly a Bible study. So being washed in the word and her mind being renewed and knowing truth, and in a safe space, in a safe atmosphere, and realizing that there's nothing but love in heaven and forgiveness, and that mourning her child's death is honoring her child. And so just beautiful, beautiful things where you see now women going forth and having conversations with other women, or feeling connected with their children again. That's another symptom people don't know about abortion, is you can feel disconnected from your living children.
Yeah.
And the list goes on and on.
Yeah. One of the things whenever I first took the tour of Adria, and I don't even know particularly why, other than just the power of it, is our plaque that we have with all the babies' names. So during Forgiven and Set Free, y'all have a memorial for the babies, and you name the babies that are no longer with us.
Yeah.
Something was so, I got chills, wanted to start tearing up. And again, I don't have a post-abortive testimony, but it was so moving. And then biblically, you had said that there's something, I can't remember if it was you or Cass told me something about the power of naming, a baby.
Yeah. I mean, God names things. Everything has a name. We are renamed. God had Adam name. I mean, there's something that's honoring and giving someone a name.
Yeah.
And so a part of the recovery is spending, several months processing the stages of grief, and then having at the end really understanding, is that child in heaven? And if they are, they need a name. And what better person to name that unborn child than their mother?
Yeah.
And so the memorial is one of my favorite days, because it's a time to really give honor to that child.
Yeah. I know we hadn't spoken about this, but would you be okay sharing the name of your baby?
Yeah. Yeah. So a part of it is, figuring out if it's a boy or a girl, and not over spiritualizing it, but praying about it. And I felt and feel like my son is a boy. And so I named him David, and he would be 10 this month. And it's so cool how God orchestrates things. So he would be 10 at the end of this month. And so when I named him, my husband and I, you can decide on the life certificate, their last name, and you can put, your maiden name, whatever, it's your choice. And my husband and I talked about it, and I wanted him to be a part of our family. And so his last name is our last name. And another thing is to memorialize your child's life by some type of way. And so we planted a fruit-bearing tree outside of our kitchen window. And so our kids are so 90s kids, running around and doing all sorts of stuff outside and things. And so that was special to have that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In our work text, you had shared that there was a bloom on the tree this year.
Yes.
And you had shared, I had never heard David's name until this past gala, and it was really incredible and moving again to hear you name him out loud and say his name, and not have, you could tell there was true freedom in you sharing that. And it's always so powerful to watch you really trust God with your testimony. And because it's heavy, and I know it's hard to share the most intimate thing you've ever been through. But you've done an incredible job with your healing process, and you just are such a light whenever you speak about it.
I appreciate it. I feel like there are small moments in our life where we can easily not say yes to God, and they're not loud and they're not in front of people. They're just these moments where you have to decide. And one of those moments was when I was asked to do the Forgiven and Set Free. And I was driving, and I already had a Bible study at my house. We had like 15 to 20 women coming every Wednesday, and I cooked. And so I was like, it's going to be on a Wednesday right before this Bible study. Like, can you imagine emotionally going through a 2-hour, post-abortion class and then driving straight to your home to have women in your house? And I remember thinking, I could probably, I'll just do it next time. And I can look back and say, those are the moments, those little yes moments that were game changers in my life.
Yeah.
Like that mattered. What was I going to say yes to this, or was I going to say no to that? And they're so small. I feel like sometimes we miss them.
Yeah.
But they're important.
Yeah.
And for me, it was that yes in that moment.
I think that someone told me that the only thing worse than the grief itself would be that it was in vain. And I think you've really created such a powerful legacy through David and through your testimony. I mean, it really does just blow me away. And I know I tell you this a lot, but I really mean it. I really mean it. I've seen it firsthand, and I believe in what you're doing. And that is just incredible to be a part of. It really is. It's such an honor for you to share your heart so vulnerably. So your testimony doesn't stop with just facilitating a Forgiven and Set Free class. It continued on. God opened doors for you to be my boss. You're the executive director of Adria Women's Health in Texas City.
Yeah.
Catch me up. How did we get here?
Gosh, yeah. So super God story, divine appointment was I'm trying to do the Cliff Notes.
Yeah.
Where our church at the time was helping. The pregnancy center was named something else. They were struggling, and they were at a place where the board was deciding to dissolve or to merge, and just at a crossroads. And absolutely a divine appointment where I intersected with the church that intersected with, the some people on the board, and the rest is honestly history. But it was another yes. It was another, like, you can choose this.
Yeah.
And I've shared this with you several times, but I got off the phone. They offered me the position. I had no idea what I was doing, but I had this like vision. I just had this strong vision of this is what needs to happen. Like, I see it. I love working and creating things, broken systems, and making them healthy. I love that part, and so I was excited about it.
Yeah.
And Kelly, I remember her saying,
Yeah.
there's a book she read or something. She said, when you're doing what you're supposed to do, when you feel like you're playing, like when you're a kid, like, this is something I would want to do as a child.
Yeah.
And I love creating things, and that they work efficiently and they work for a purpose. And so another pregnancy center director sat down with me and was like, what do you think? And I'm like, I think we need to do this. And so she's like, here. And she typed it up for me. And I went and sat down on the board and said, hey, I think this is what we should do if I was to take this position. And, I'm still nursing my youngest. Like, I'm a stay-at-home mom. I cannot work full time, all the no's. But God was like, say yes. And my husband was very supportive in that moment and said, we'll figure it out. And so, like I've told you, it was in the back of a bill, like an envelope, and I got off the phone with the interim director, which was on the board. And I said, they're offering me the position. How are we going to do this? Like, we have kids and Mother's Day out and school and all the other, these moving parts. And so we sat there and we wrote down, like, okay, maybe my mom can pick them up here and you can help with here. And so he's like, you just can't say no. And so, so it's been a wild ride. It's been so invigorating, hard.
Yes.
Very hard. You think that when you're walking in the will of God, that it's like
so awesome all the time, and it's not. Sometimes you're like, I want to throw in the towel. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't know what I'm doing, and
Yeah.
I think there's the messiness of it, but at the end of the day, I know because I know that if I continue to go back to the Father and hear his heart, and he's telling me like go back to Nineveh, that my job's not done, and I think that we work with amazing women.
We do.
Like
I was about to say the same thing, like a powerhouse of women.
it's all because of God.
Yeah.
It's all because of God. There is no like star in this story. It's him. It's him saying this is a community that has been underserved, and I'm not done with them. I'll never be done with them.
I love so much how our staff always approaches with so much compassion, but so much honesty too, and they can exist in the same breath.
Yes,
And it's really incredible. I brag about our medical team and behind the scenes team so much, because there's nothing better than raising money knowing that we're truly changing lives.
Yeah.
So how many lives have been saved? We went medical September of 2024,
2023.
2023.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we,
I think we're 36 lives, and we're
so.
open 15 hours a week.
so we're open Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It is absolutely incredible, and for those that are on the fence or are not for life, I would say do your research. Go to a pregnancy center, your local pregnancy center, and tour one.
Yeah.
Because I've never met someone that's not come into Adria and gone, I feel the presence of God here. I feel love here. We have stories of women saying, we had one ran out. She said, y'all are too kind. Like, I can't, you're too nice to me. Like, she's never experienced the love that was tangibly felt from her. Right.
Yeah.
Or we have stories of, women that, were forced to have the chemical abortion and tried the APR, and it was too late, and is on the other side of town calling our nurse saying, I just need a hug. I have no one. Can I come and just get a hug? And those are the things that I'm like, say all that you want to say,
Yeah.
but don't slander something that you don't know.
I think that was the biggest thing for me, is I just didn't know.
Yeah.
And I think it's so incredible the way that these girls are allowed to come in and process and just say, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know what the right answer is.
Yeah.
And the staff will just sit there and let them go through the process of processing. And it's really incredible. They are so gifted, and I could never do it, but I love getting to be a part of the story in my own capacity.
Yeah.
For a woman that is going through, they just found out they're pregnant.
Yeah.
They're scared. They're processing. They're feeling the shame. It's not the situation that they envisioned. They think they're going to lose everything, and that's a possibility. What would you say to her in this moment?
I would say there is always a way, because he is the way, and that God is with her, and that you do not want to experience an abortion, and that God will make a way, and to keep that baby, to keep that baby, to find resources. If your church is shut their doors on you, if your family has, if you have nothing. I mean, how many stories have we heard of women that they are the product of their mother saying yes?
Yeah.
Even last minute in that abortion clinic.
Yes.
And they are alive and doing incredible things for the Lord and living the life and continuing a legacy. So I would say, please know that you're loved. Please know that there is a way, because he is the way.
I love that. There is a way, because I feel like so many times women are saying, like, there's no way. There's just no way.
Yeah.
Whether it be financial, whatever capacity, emotional, maybe they're in a bad relationship, all the different things that happen in life. For a woman who's been through an abortion, I mean, what, as though I was sitting here with you and pouring my heart out to you about going through an abortion, what would you share with me? What are the truths that you needed to hear?
So one more thing I would say about someone that's considering abortion is please find a local pregnancy resource center, because that's where you need to go. You need to go somewhere that's safe. You need to go somewhere that you are loved and you are not judged, that will not tell you what you need to choose. We are a pro-life ministry and we want you to choose life, but even if you don't choose life, that we are there for you and we love you, that you have to make that choice, but we want to empower you and equip you and say, these are the options. This is how it would look to be fully informed. You never want to make a decision when you are in fight or flight. Yeah. Nothing good happens when you're in fight or flight. So pregnancy resource centers are what our competitor says that they are, which they are not. We are a safe place for women. We are for life and we are pro women to our bones that gives compassionate and professional care to encourage women to sort through and become fully informed before they make a choice. For those that are walking through post-abortion or even haven't walked through it, that they are post-abortive and they're keeping this deep, dark secret, I would say, and this has just been something I've been thinking a lot. I've heard this on a Bible study and I'm going to use it here. Lazarus, come out. It is time. It is time. It is time. It is time. God has set for you a to-do list just for you specifically to advance his kingdom of light. And you are in grave clothes of shame and God wants to set you free because there are so many things out there that he has planned for you. And that there is life after an abortion, and there is healing after an abortion, and there's redemption after abortion. And if anything, the understanding of grace becomes so multidimensional that I did not experience until I don't think I fully understood the grace of God and
It's
what the
beyond
gospel
comprehension.
until I had to receive grace for something that I willfully did, and I should not have been forgiven for. And I think there's so many sins that we are so prideful if we're honest. Well, I go to church every Wednesday and Sunday and I serve and I'm on staff and I read my Bible and I've read it 5 times and I get up at 5:30 every morning and all those things should happen. I mean, I'm so tired of like gentle parenting church. It's like, you don't need to do anything. Oh, yes, you do. Yes, you do. To get out of bed and to be a warrior for Christ, you absolutely need to be in spiritual disciplines. But those do not make you someone that deserves anything, right? You don't deserve anything. And I think that for me, my abortion, I realized the spiritual pride I had because to me it was like, well, all the other sins, all of my cutting remarks or my bad attitude or my other things that I'm still being sanctified for, they're okay because I'm super Christian. I live in the church or, for those that were born in the church, I'm born in the church. When you have committed a sin, and maybe someone that's fallen into, things like, a moral failure in the church, those are the kind of things, abortion. For you to receive the grace of God for that is so incredibly hard because you know what you did. There's no one else to blame. And to receive a gift that it's offensive. The cross is offensive. That I and my sinful nature and what I did is being pardoned.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But it's life-changing when you receive it because the gospel becomes so much more real. And those around you and the grace that you want to give others because you think, oh my gosh.
Whenever I've been through challenging things like that, I just feel like my spiritual depth is so much deeper and I can feel it so much stronger. Just the things you never thought you'd be able to forgive yourself for or that much less God could forgive you for. But of course he can.
Yes, he can.
He does. Well, Carey, I am so thankful you shared your testimony with us today. It is always such a blessing. Like I said, it's always just like a light shines in you whenever you're sharing it.
Thanks.
And I just love so much the redemption story that God has given you through David's legacy and life. And I can't wait for one day in heaven to watch you embrace him and truly enjoy all that he is.
I'm so excited for it. I want to end with this though.
Yeah.
If someone is hearing this interview and is pro-life, I want to encourage them to speak truth with love. And I want to admonish people, and it's a strong word, but it's time, that if you are for the sanctity of life, you should be sowing into your local pregnancy resource center. If you believe that life begins at conception, you should know your local pregnancy center. You should be financially supporting your local pregnancy center, multiple of them.
Yes.
You should be involved because we need you. And we are fighting a competitor that has so much resources, so many resources, and we don't need any more donations. We do. We do.
We always do.
But diapers do not save lives.
Yeah.
Medical teams save lives. Ultrasound save lives. Medical professional saves lives. Trained, equipped, competent, compassionate nurses and doctors save lives. That's what we need. So I would highly encourage, if someone is pro-life and listening, to donate to your local pregnancy center.
Amen.
Research shows that between 70 and 90% of women that have had an abortion regret their decision. If you've walked through the pain of abortion, please know this: you are seen, you are loved, and healing is possible. You are not damaged goods. We encourage you to reach out to us at Adria Women's Health or connect with your local pregnancy resource center to seek post-abortion recovery. You do not have to carry the weight alone. There is hope and support waiting for you. And if you're passionate about standing for life, we invite you to support Adria Women's Health or your local pregnancy resource center. Your generosity helps provide real help and lasting hope to women and families in need. And if today's episode encouraged you, we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us on Instagram or our YouTube channel, like and subscribe, and let us know what spoke to your heart. There's also links in our bio for post-abortive resources. Thank you for joining us on Coffee with Carey, where we talk about real stories, real struggles, and real faith. Until next time, stay encouraged, stay connected, and remember, God is with you in every step of the journey. Be blessed and take care.